presence of God. So that happens sometime before this. That's another yard.
Yeah, my name's Mark Weiner. I have the greatest respect for David Meadows. I came to the garage.
Okay.
We used to meet in the garage. I'm sure you look like you did. And back in the 20s, I was in my early 20s. I'm 70 today, so it's been a while. But I just wanted to do something short and sweet. We were a bunch of rowdy ones, just, thieves and drug users. That garage was full of a bunch of crazy people, among which was I was. Among which I was. And David bear with me through a lot of things. But I always had the greatest respect for the consistency, like the big guy just said, the constant, consistent, loving each other. But one time we had to get together, and I used to read the worship. And we had to get together to, I can't even remember what the occasion was, except we used to honor David. What do they call it when you do jokes and stuff like that? A roast, yeah. So I wrote a song, and I'll sing it to you. Now, my voice is with me. Born down in Hayesville, in Wichita. Funniest kid you ever saw. Whoever thought he'd grow up to be a preacher that means so much to me. David Meadows, the leader of the wild bunch here. David Meadows, the leader of the wild bunch here. Great man. God bless him.
Schultz, isn't it wonderful to be in a service where you don't have to preach him to heaven? we know where he is, don't we? Yeah. What I knew about David over years and years and years of Brother Cecil being his son was that he was a man of his word. When he said, I'll be there at 9 o'clock and we'll do X, Y, Z, he was there at 9 o'clock and we'll do X, Y, Z. But what I also knew was that he was a man of the word. And boy, did he convict you. Now, I'm a Baptist, I don't get you Pentecostal somewhere. So, I had to learn some things. But what a wonderful life it was, and what a wonderful life I have had to be able to share David's life. I tell you, I'm praising him today, but I'm praising God because I know where he is. Amen.
My name's Leo. I met David not coming to the church. I met him because we needed the church. I'm in a recovery group, and we were in this space. And so I came to David, and I asked him about, hey, can we get a room? We can't pay much rent. We don't have a lot of money. And he said, well, I'll get some stuff. And I said, well, I'll be up front. And I said, well, you're going to have a lot of people that don't believe in God, actually hate the church, that are going to be coming. He said, you're not going to be violent. You're not going to have a problem with that. And so we went to the council, and I went to the council with him and explained what's going on. And just to show how crazy this church is, they said, okay. And it's been an amazing relationship. There was one time I went to the council, and we were wanting to continue the next year. And I told them, I said, well, we're going to do a celebration of recovery, and it's going to be about 500 drug addicts here in this church. And as you might guess they weren't all quite thrilled with that. But they had me leave the room and they come back and they said, okay, and I've listened to a lot of David's sermons and talks about Skid Row a lot. But I can guarantee you, we have people from Skid Row right here, out here, celebrating 500 years of no weddings. So this church has done so much without being a church. Recovery is still to this day in this property. Actually, this property here has more meetings for drug addicts than any other meeting in the city. So it's been going on a long, long time. We've had deals where we had recovery people in church. We had a big picnic, ball games. There was so much stuff that this church has done. And my personal thing with David is this. I would come here all the time and getting ready for whatever event we were doing, or bringing supplies, whatever. And he'd be up in his little office up there. And sometimes Robin was in the office in the end of the hall. And he'd ask me about, well, what is this recovery thing? And he'd ask me stuff specifically about it. And then he'd say, well, this is in the Bible. And he would show me, he'd ask me if he'd show me, and then he'd show me in the Bible where these principles are at. And so, listen, when I came into the fellowship, I was a devout atheist. I was raised a Catholic. I went to church 90,000 times a week, all that stuff. I turned my back on the church a long, long, long time ago. And I was a devout atheist. And he's telling me this and telling me that. And showing me that these principles that I think I'm learning from over here actually came from here. And it's just, it was such an enlightenment to me personally. And so it's through David that I started to come to believe a little bit. And then I started to believe a lot, and then I figured it didn't matter if I believed, because today I do know that Jesus Christ is my Savior. He did that. He never once forced anything on me. He always left it my choice. He never judged anybody that was in here, doing whatever they're doing. And, this, through him, speaking and doing the things that he's done, there's just so many people that have been opened up to a new spiritual realm that they never knew existed. And so this is what he's done without the church. He didn't throw the Bible in you. He didn't do anything. He just said, welcome here, whoever you are. And he's been the biggest example of open-mindedness of any human I've ever met. He really is. He just accepted everybody for who they were, and apparently he knows they can be saved.
Yeah, we had other church members come in because of that group. Yes. John, you want to share? Yeah. Okay.
I'm kind of going back and forth about this, trying to figure out how I was going to say this, because I'm not a public speaker by any means. David has two important roles in my life. And my mom and my dad, both from broken homes. My dad grew up here in Wichita. My mom in the distant mountains of Maryland and Pennsylvania. They wound up somehow here meeting in Hayesville. And, David, I don't know, by the grace of God, my mom and dad met, right? And David was a big part of their lives. He was a big part of my life. My mom and dad started dating, and 3 months later, they got married. And until the Lord took my dad home in April, they've been married for 49 years. So that's a thing you don't hear about in most places. But my dad was a really good man of God, and so was my mom. She's a good woman of faith. And when I was a kid, David Meadows instilled the importance of having Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And as a kid, I couldn't tie my shoes, chew bubble gum, all these silly things that kids do. But that's one thing that, David instilled in me when I was a little kid. And so, for whatever reason, my family, we left the old church down there. And, I was 17 years old and had my daughter, and then 20, had my son, and got divorced by 21, and just totally living for myself in this world. And when I got to the end of that rope, I was like, man, there was one thing that David taught me as a kid, and I hadn't been going to church in I don't know how long, but David taught me when I was a kid, I am a child of God. Jesus bought me with his blood, and yet the enemy has no hold over me. And even I had stepped away from church for, decades, right? And that was something that he instilled in me, and it brought peace. And so I think it was 2010. I was like, man, I'm going to look up, I think it was anywho.com, and you can pull up somebody's phone number. And it gave me the numbers of the church here, and so I had to leave a voicemail. And sure enough, David called me back, and he said, yeah, come on down, And so I've got, so it took me, and I started, while I was away, I started playing guitar, and I didn't have the courage to, be a lead singer, a guitar player in a band, stage fright. And anyways, Dave was like, come on back to church, man. We'll be happy to see you. I asked how my family was doing. And so I drove by the church 3 times, 3 different weeks. Kevin Duncan was like, hey, come play guitar. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll play guitar for the Lord. Drove by 3 different weeks. Kevin's like, where were you? And I said, well, nobody was there, but there's this car parked in the front, and just scared. Finally, I got the nerve to come up here, But anyway, so I'm trying to keep this short. So when I was a kid, I see there's faces that from whenever I was a kid, and I come back to, and just some really good people. And since I've come back, I've been here for 12 years now. I've been blessed to marry his daughter and be his son-in-law for the last 4.5 years. And now there's new people like Todd and Angie and Warren and all these people that, because of who David was, just some really good, genuine people, and his extended family here. And it's just, I would not be standing here if it wasn't for Jesus, first of all. But if it wasn't for the consistent, I'm sure David had prayed for me all those years I stepped away. I didn't deserve that, but just the true genuineness of David's heart, and the verse in the pamphlet, Philippians 1:21, for me to live is Christ, but to die is gain. And, as many times as I've heard that verse, when David passed and we were looking at that, that's something that really, you can say that was David Meadows without a doubt, amongst numerous other Bible verses. But truly a true, honest man of God, and man, greatly missed, but man, what a blessing he has been to my life, and I know every one of you here. So,
John. All right, my mother, here you go.
I'll try not to preach. Well, when Jonathan was talking about that Bible verse, when I met David Meadows, he had a beautiful GTO. And on that GTO, he had that on the dash of the GTO. And I thought, wow, he's good looking, he's got a nice car, and he's a Christian, a genuine Christian. But you guys, David was not real romantic. And so this is the story I'm going to tell. We had dated probably 2 years. And one night he was just really quieter than usual. And David was always quiet. And I knew something was wrong. And I said, David, what's wrong? He goes, oh, I don't know if I should tell you. I said, why not? He goes, well, okay. Now, see, I told you he wasn't romantic. So I never thought David would ever get down on his knee and say, will you marry me? This is how he asked me to marry him. He said, oh, just some of those busybodies in the church came to me and wanted to know what my intentions were towards you. So I looked at him and I said, so what did you say? He said, I told them old busybodies if I had $200, I'd marry you today. I'm, oh, I got $200. That was the way he proposed. So I go in the house, I'm like on cloud 9 to tell my mom. And she said, well, did he get down on his knees, or how do you say it? So I told her, she laughed. And my mom was a character too. That's kind of where I get some of it. But anyway, we started making wedding plans. And every time we set a date, something happened that we couldn't do it that day because of the church or somebody in the church. Finally, I looked at David. He went on a missions trip. He got back, and I looked at him and I said, you know what? They need to work around us. We need to quit being nice and just say, we're setting this date, and if you can come, you can come. If you can't, whatever. And so we set the date. But I just thought it'd be kind of funny to tell that story about him, because he wasn't romantic, but I knew he loved me. And he always gave me little flowers and stuff, but that's why we got the red roses, because he always gave red roses.
Thank you.
Boy, I can't follow that. The one thing that hasn't been brought up about David is I've been here since the beginning, and he was the old-time family pastor. You remember in the movies they always had a family pastor, and I started thinking about this the other day. Married here in 75. My kids were all dedicated by David. Of course, my oldest daughter prayed me in because she was here before I was. She's sitting back there, probably wishing I'd shut up. No, but anyway, so I've had 4 kids that have all gone here, and he's done funerals for family members. He's, all the babies were. All of my grandchildren have been dedicated or baptized at the lake by David, all of them. And now I have great grandchildren. Found out I'm going to have a little girl. I have 4 great grandsons, and I wanted a girl, and I'm going to have a little girl. But anyway, several of my grandkids are here. 3 of my daughters are here. But he was true 100% the family pastor. He was there when you wanted him. And he was a family pastor to many of our families that are here. So, thank you, David.
Thank you, Connie. Appreciate that. Ann? Okay.
I'll make this quick. We started looking for a church after we moved from Roseville to the Hillsville area. And we searched and searched until we came here. And we just felt at home here. We were here for 3 years until we had a dreadful call November the 11th. Our son had passed away. So we called your dad, and he was at our home instantly and loving. And it was very difficult. But I have to say, in the living room, my husband and I go, what do we do? What do we do? And your dad said, don't you worry about a thing. And between Robin and my husband, they had that whole back wall just full of Derek's photos. And Pastor John, Pastor David, stood up there. He didn't know Derek, just the information that we gave him. And he said wonderful things about Derek and the church was just in awe. And we're just so grateful. And this has been our home church ever since. We love him, and rest in peace, Pastor David.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Cecil, they went from the Cindy's.
My family's known Pastor Dave since I was a little bitty snot. And I can remember back on the old Murdoch Church in Wichita. Pastor Dave, I never ever happened to grow up to be a pastor. I got to grow up to be a little hooligan like we were when we were kids. But I can remember Sister Florence Meadows, telling David, quit squirming, quit squirming, quit squirming, and hiding under the chairs. And I was like, that's a kid being for trouble. Then he became a pastor, and he was more of a better pastor than he was a little rascal in church. And if you knew Pastor Dave, or he knew you, and he touched your life, you knew something better than gold, treasury. I'm gonna miss him.
This is real quick. I needed someone that I knew needed deliverance. And the people that were helping this person went to the Catholic Church. In the Catholic Church, the priests say, we don't do that. And they called me and I said, you call my Pastor David, and he did the trick. That's really funny.
Yes. All right. Well, I know there's many memories we can keep sharing. I appreciate the fourth section over here. Thank you, pastors. At this time, we're going to close the service. I'm going to have Lauren Holper come join me on the stage. He's going to share a memory, and then he's going to pray the benediction. Pastor Lauren has been the divisional and district supervisor. He's the regional supervisor over the pastor in Kansas now. Lauren, thanks for being here.
Wow, what a time.